Welcome to the Lowdown Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today is someone who grew up in her community, built her career there over more than 20 years, and will be the first to tell you that she just puts her head down and goes to work every single day. Angie Lewis, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. It's been great getting to know you and just getting familiar with your story. For the listeners here, I want them to get a better understanding of your background. You've been in the business since the early 2000s. You spent about 20 years at a bank in your local community before jumping to the independent mortgage banker world. Some people struggle with that decision, and some people think about it often and don't ever make the move. But what was it that finally pushed you into making a move like that?
Definitely a prayerful decision. And I kind of made a move with several friends. We were all kind of exploring some ideas together and had talked to a couple of different companies. But working for a big bank, it was a small bank when I started there, a community bank, but obviously became bigger over a 20-year span of time. And just big bank is you just lose that personal touch. You don't have as much contact with the people that are decision makers. And the process was just always broken. You'll hear a lot of realtors say, we don't want to work with the bank. Don't call Wells Fargo or Bank of America or whoever. Sorry, I might not just say bank names, but big banks, don't call them because they don't have that personal touch or that connection. And so I never had an issue where I felt like we were dropping the ball, but I carried the weight of all the pressure. So my realtors and clients maybe did not know what we were going through, but I carried it all on my shoulders, or at least I felt like I did. So just having that opportunity to get away from that environment and move into a spot that had a better system, a better process, and worked more like the mortgage world really was designed to operate.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. And the reason I wanted to ask you that question is I know there are a lot of people that struggle with that decision. And listen, to each their own, whether it's big bank, independent, broker, you got to find what fits and suits you best. Because if you're not in alignment with the environment that you're in and you feel a little out of sorts, it's going to show up in your business. But not everybody, takes the time to explore that. And you even made a comment to me where you said, look, you don't know what you don't know. And it's one of my favorite phrases. So if you're looking back on just the earlier parts of your career, what is something that you wish someone had pulled you aside and just shared with you as advice?
So, two things I think. One is you are the business. And I mean, personally, obviously, I knew that to some degree, but when you work for a bank, they make you feel almost handcuffed. You think that your business is coming from your bank clients, the people that walk in and out of that door every day. But obviously, if you work there for 20 years, you are the business. People are calling Angie Lewis. They're not calling whatever bank it is that you work for. So I think, having more knowledge and understanding about where your business is and how it operates and where it comes from. And then obviously financially was an important decision as well. And that's back to the you don't know what you don't know. I've since obviously made 2 moves from the bank, and each time different model, different setup, different strategies. And I want to say, we're all in this business to make money, but it's not about the money for me. At the end of the day, a lot of the decision was about having a peace of mind and being able to sleep at night and just looking for better systems and better processes.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a great call out that you said about you are the business. I mean, especially after time and in a smaller community like the one you live in, it's a very personal experience to go through in buying a home, right? You've got to show someone your financial skeletons in your closet and
Yes.
and really just sort of bear all to that loan officer so that they can structure the best possible deal for you. So at the end of that, it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's a little naive to get caught up in, well, the bank is the only reason why the next person is going to see me, because a lot of times what you'll find is that that last client is going to tell their family, their friends, their coworkers about the experience they had with you. And you're always the face of the transaction. And so I think that's a great call out. And you mentioned kind of making some changes within the last year or so. You made the move over to lower mortgage, and something you mentioned to me was that it finally felt like the business was yours. If you don't mind, one, like if you can share what you mean by that and just explore that a little bit more. But then two, like help us understand what is it a decision or some decisions that you've been able to make since making that move that you wouldn't have been able to do.
So from the bank, I went to a regular IMB on a retail model, which was great. Again, just a wonderful experience. I had a great experience there. Their system was very well organized. It was a well-oiled machine. Their process and underwriting and closing, everything, it was just amazing. And the opportunity kind of presented itself. Obviously, everybody's phone is ringing every day because recruiters are crazy. I'm glad I'm not a recruiter. I would not want that job. Sorry, Connor.
Hey, it's okay.
But, so we got into discussions with Lower and I came here on a P&L model. So a little different strategy. And the reason why you just feel like you own it because you're responsible every day. You're responsible for the light bill. You're responsible for every credit report you decide to pull, every employment verification that you're going to do. All those things are costs. And so you have to think about the strategy and the structure there. It's not going to be the right fit for everybody. I am in a market with a smaller, I would say average price point loan amount, probably 225 to 250. I do a lot of units. I do quite a bit of government, probably a little more than 50% of my business is government. Two things I think in terms of ideas or things I've been able to do since coming or that really encouraged me to make this step. One, first and foremost, was I hired a processor, my own processor. I do share her with another P&L center, so we split one processor, which has worked great because we both do the general same kind of business. But at the end of the day, we have one person and we can say, this is a priority. We got to take care of this deal right this minute. This is on fire. If the other guy's fires are on fire at the moment and his is more important, okay, let's work on his. Or, my Mr. Jones file is more important than my Mr. Smith file. The processor has been the biggest rewarding thing I think that we have done, just to have that person who's working only for us and she knows what she's doing. And anyway, that's made all the difference in the world. The other piece is really pricing and strategy around that. In my prior company, there was like a minimum net revenue. So every loan that they closed, they wanted to make a certain dollar amount. And on the retail side, you don't really understand the margins and all the things that are kind of going until, the curtain's pulled back and you get to getting into more of the weeds about the numbers. And because of my market and smaller dollar amounts, I really did not feel like I had competitive pricing for the clients that I was serving. So again, we all want to make money. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to sleep at night and feel like I had a competitive product and a fair product and a good rate for my client. And I still want to make money while I provide that service, but I want to know that I'm providing a good service and a fair service.
Well, I love the way you talk about the P&L as a different strategy. It just opens up different opportunities. And back to what we were saying earlier, like different models are going to be a better fit depending on the individual. There is no one best way, but there is a best way for you. And sometimes it's just about finding the alignment and how involved you want to be in certain parts of the business and to work within the structure that's going to give you the best opportunity to be competitive. So I love that you found that here. And it's great to hear that you found some ways to make it work to your advantage. Now, you're in a town of about 50,000 people where you just know every realtor and your name carries weight, but builders and preferred lenders do control a lot of that inventory. How are you competing in an environment like that?
Several kind of notes I made about that. One, you can still encourage your realtors or your partners or your clients to let you have a look at the deal. There's nothing wrong with having a second opinion. With the P&L, sometimes I might be able to be as aggressive as I need to be. If the seller or the builder's only offering a $1,000 or $2,000 credit, sometimes I can do that. I can match that. Obviously, it might be tough for me to do something with a $15,000 or $25,000 incentive. So sometimes that could be just a conversation that we're going to have and a second look. The idea about the second look also is to put my name out there for when the refinance opportunity comes up, because they're not going to have a relationship with that builder lender typically locally. And so when the refi opportunity comes, hopefully they'll still remember that I'm sitting here in their town and they could call me for that point of conversation. You can also be the builder's second look opinion. The builder's lender can't approve every single deal. They might not want to approve every single deal. So sometimes there's an opportunity to look at their denials. And then also you have to use this as a strategy to help work with your agents to market and promote their existing listings, because new construction's out there, but they also have listings they're taking every day and they need to move that inventory just as much as encouraging somebody to buy new construction. And so figuring out ways to help be creative there. And one more, just not the builder side of the question that you asked me, but in terms of the second look, even soliciting or talking to or having partnerships with your bank lenders. So there are lenders in our town that work at banks and they don't have the ability to do all the things we can do. So reaching out to them and building that partnership and relationship, I think, is a great idea to get some low-hanging fruit of things that they know what you're looking for and what you can do. And that's another way to get a couple of deals.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for sharing that. Something else we've talked about is that you'll call a cold lead twice, and if they don't respond, it's like time to move on, right? Even though the data says it can take like 18 touches. I mean, they say call, call, call. How do you reconcile that with how you really want to spend your time?
I was joking when I said twice, but about twice is, I'm not going to call so many times. I have had a lot of birthdays, and with those birthdays comes the experience of, not every deal is meant for me. And I think if you're buying a home, you're an adult and you got to make adult decisions, and I can only chase you so much. And so you got to be mature enough to call me back if you're ready to take this step, because this is a serious step. But I also have to step back and think about the intimidation factor of buying a house. These people don't do this every day and we do. And so sometimes it's going to take some more touches and maybe some softer touches and some gentle encouragement. Obviously, we've all probably been in coaching and we've heard the term, gosh, what was the word I was going to say? You call them till they buy or die. That's how you chase the lead, till they buy or die. And I have not been that aggressive, but, maybe over time, we're continuing to tweak our CRMs and the, systems that we're using, and we could be smarter about how we stay in front of those clients and do some more touches to try to nurture them along. Because I think another statistic says if people are going to make a major purchase, they're going to do it in 6 months. I mean, that could be a car or a TV or a diamond ring or a house. So, maybe you set your system up to 6 months of I'm going to proactively reach out. And after that, I might, take a pause. But a lot of people, if they're serious, they're going to do it. They're going to find a way.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that you make. And also when it comes to like setting up systems for follow-up so that it's not one note, right? Like, so it's not always just calling, but do we send an email? Is there a way to, automate a text message? Are there other ways that we can add some variety into the way that we're reaching out so that it's not always you making another phone call? And having a system to support that is a big part of it. And like on the subject of tools, we've talked about, and I talk about this with a lot of loan officers, there's no shortage of technology and tools and people who want your money to use their tools in this business, right? But there's some really good ones out there. And, just in our conversation, you even admitted that you have a few that you're paying for, but you just haven't really been using to their fullest extent. What would you say, just so other people can relate, because I know a lot of people are challenged by this, like what gets in the way into turning those different tools into like business driving, lever?
So I think at the end of the day, this goes back to the coaching world where you're paying somebody to hold you accountable. You got to make time or incorporate that into your daily or weekly or monthly planning of, put it on your calendar and actually use it. Because we had this conversation, I went back and looked at my Homebot, and I have, unfortunately from the bank world, I should have 20,000 clients, but I don't have that many in my database because I didn't bring all those names with me, but my Homebot usage, it has an 82% open rate. I mean, what kind of email do you get that you open 82% of the time? So that tells me that is a great way for me to stay in front of my existing clients. One great thing about Homebot is it has the ability to embed a video. So rather than all these, the automated emails are great, but it would take 5 minutes to make a video and send it once a month or once a quarter or even twice a year. Again, the refinance world, maybe that, light switch is going to turn on at some point. So I want them to call me, not whoever is servicing their mortgage, if that's an opportunity, or they're going to buy or sell, just to continue to stay in front of them, not only to come back to me, but also as a way for me possibly to give that lead back to a realtor or their partner that was their realtor, or remind them who their realtor was. I think if we can figure out ways to be more direct to consumer, I know that's what kind of the world is shifting to, us getting our hands on the lead first. Anything we can do to drive that, and even the CRM, it's, the best CRM is the one you use, and we don't use them very well. So just learning how to set aside that time and take advantage of that technology because we have it right at our fingertips.
Yeah, and that race to consumer is huge. So I want to shift gears for a second here and just talk about like building a team and just growth in terms of the office. And I know you've had some fear in the past about training someone up and then they go off to be your competition. And I think you've kind of reconciled that a little bit. What finally shifted your perspective on hiring?
I think some of that has just been experience and listening to other people who are smarter than me. But, having that abundance mindset of there's enough business out there for more than one of me. There are definitely more than one of me in my market. And then obviously now we're competing with a digital market. So having the right team or members in place could actually help grow your volume versus living in that fear mindset of it's going to take business away from me. Because another one of me could be getting the business that I'm missing because I don't have time, or I missed calling somebody back in 5 minutes. And we're not always going to be the first person they call. We're always going to answer the phone the fastest, but having the right support out there, I think, can help you move forward. I don't have a vision or a plan of having 10 members on my team. I am in a smaller town, but I think now I'm at a point of knowing that, one, I maybe have 8 to 10 years left in this career, and it would be a great idea to bring somebody along that I can train and spend the time with and teach them whatever I can teach them in whatever short time that they're with me, to get it out of my brain and into their brain, just thinking about the future. And I think you said the word legacy of, what do you want to leave and how are you going to leave it and who you're going to set that up for.
Yeah. Well, and you're getting a small taste of that right now, right? Like you're working with your son. Now, he may or may not want to follow in mom's footsteps in the future, but just working with him, what has that taught you about how you want to evaluate or approach the next hire when you're ready to go there?
Well, I think I'm not a great manager. I might need a manager to be the manager. Obviously, the family relationship there is a little different, so you probably let some things slide that you might not would for other people. So learning to maybe have some different standards and expectations in place for some of that, but also just thinking about what is the person that you want. One, I think a junior loan officer or something like that would be great to help build production and control production and, just kind of facilitate all that. But even also like hiring the opposite of me, who is the salesperson and wants to talk to everybody and, do all the fun things, having the person that maybe is the detail oriented and task oriented person. You could be talking about 2 different people that you're possibly adding to your team at some point whenever you're ready, for that next step too.
Yeah. So you're at a point now where you've built a business that supports your family. You're able to protect your evenings and you're thinking about who you can eventually work with and maybe hand this over to in the future. What does success look like for you 10 years from now?
So this is probably one of the harder questions that you asked me. We're going to go to church for just a minute, but
yeah,
I think that's probably the biggest thing in my life. And that is, Success for me is continuing to walk that line, continuing to give back. Early in my life, I don't know how or why, but I just had this, intrinsic whatever emotion or whatever that I was supposed to tithe and give. And I feel like any success that I have has been from the good Lord above. And so just continuing to be able to do that and give back, serve, spend time in my community, time in my church, and obviously ultimately time with my family. So that is ultimately success for me, but also just, continuing to stay on this path, grow whatever this business looks like, just to continue to serve the people and help, the everyday American achieve the dream of homeownership.
Yeah. Like skills or just different parts of the business that you feel are going to be necessary for loan officers to really dial in now to be, successful, relevant, grow, over the next 2 to 3 years?
I think the business has an opportunity, is changing quickly. I mean, it already is. It's not that it's going to, it's changing quickly. I don't think that a computer can replace us. There's a lot of worry and anxiety, I guess, over AI and what place it has in our business. I think it can help our business, certainly, but I think the personal touch is still a huge part of what makes any loan officer successful, the relationship that they're building, that they can solve problems and jump in there. And, but at the end of the day, you got to know your products. You got to know what kind of clientele you're going to serve. You can't be great at everything. You really got to kind of pick your lane and decide, who you're going to really work with. There's hundreds of programs. We all know that, but we can't be an expert at 100. So you got to find your, kind of handful of things that you're going to focus on. And I do think that, direct to consumer, lead to consumer, whatever is the most important piece of the puzzle. And if it weren't for this business, I would get off of social media altogether. But, you have to have a presence there because that's the future of where a lot of people are going to find you. And so that's also the other idea of whoever this next person is. If I put somebody else on my team, is they can go do all that stuff that I don't want to do. I don't want to do videos and be on social media and all of that crazy fun stuff. But,
Yeah.
You got to have a presence because people are looking for you and, on the internet.
Yeah. And that's such a relatable thing you said. Is that hard for you because of how much time it takes? Is it just a I don't want to do it sort of thing? Like what makes being more active socially, social media, what makes that difficult?
Well, I think I even told you, like, number one, I don't like to talk about myself. You don't want to you just want to go out there and feel like you're bragging and, look what I did and look how good I am. And I want the story to be more about, look how we helped this person. This is how we solved this problem, not this is how Angie solved the problem. I just want it to be more of a people find themselves in my stories and relate to it. I don't like to be on video. So I just gotta, that's one of those fears. We gotta just overcome that and get out there and do it because you gotta do it or you're gonna be left behind.
Yeah. Well, Angie, we've talked about a lot. I want to give you an opportunity to share anything that maybe I haven't asked you a question about. So before we say goodbye, is there anything that you'd want to just kind of put out there to the audience that you feel might be important?
It's never stop learning and never stop asking questions. It just goes back to that you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. The more people you have in your corner, the more mentors, the more partners and friends, everybody that's a loan officer in your town, your competition, to me, your competition is yourself. So I've had to learn this. I have to quit comparing myself to others. I want to be the best. Most people, salespeople, we're super competitive. We want to have our name on that leaderboard or whatever, and this goes back to the success question too. Every day, I just need to be a better me and not focus so much on why I didn't get that deal or, why did they call somebody or why did my realtor leave or whatever. I got to just really focus on being the best me that I can be because I'm my competition.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Angie, I want to say thank you for being on the lowdown, joining this show, sharing your, just your wisdom and perspective so openly. And, I wish you nothing but the best in the future. I'm looking forward to seeing where you go.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.